In this edition of the program 360 Degrees, the 2024-2025 academic year is at the corner, and the different stakeholders are gearing up with preparations. We are talking here about the pupils, the students, the teachers, the school administrators, as well as proprietors of different schools. They are gearing up the administration to tackle, they are gearing up preparations rather to tackle the new academic year. And today we focus on teachers of the private sector. We understand most of them always start school 2 weeks before the students or the people to be able to prepare the grounds for the learners for an effective kickoff during the official date. And we are looking at the plight of these teachers. We understand most of them struggle throughout the academic year to make ends meet. And then we shall equally be looking at the struggles of the different proprietors who are making sure that they provide the teachers with job. Though at the end, there seems to be some dissatisfaction on the side of the teachers. So all that, we shall be looking at it in this edition of the program. Do not move a muscle. Stay with us as we come back to dive into the discussions proper. You're welcome back. We are talking education, and the house today is made up of different educational stakeholders that we shall be going straight to welcome them here. I start immediately from my right, where I have Mr. Fon Donatus Fru. This is your second time on this set. It's a pleasure you honored our invitation again.
It's also a pleasure.
Thank you so much. By him, he is a proprietor of a primary school. He's equally a writer. Most schools in Cameroon know his works when it comes to textbooks and workbooks for the learners, especially in the primary school. I'm talking about NJIMELE George MBONA.
Yes, MBONA.
MBONA, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
By me, he is a regular face. You know him so well. NDIMWUM Emmanuel. He's a teacher. He's been here several times, and today he's here to share with us his inputs on the topic of today, the plight of teachers in the private sector. NDIMWUM Emmanuel, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Chia. It's a pleasure once more to renew my confidence on your platform. And of course, given the fact that we are zooming into a very boiling issue, which of course, very sad to think that at this point in time, Cameroonian teachers, especially in the private sector, have been going through a lot. And today, I have the privilege to be here to dissect this very hot issue, because it is very sad to know that education, which remains the pillar of every nation, Cameroon has taken it for a cost benefit. And of course, they have been using Cameroonians who are teachers to make their profits, and that is what prompted me to accept your invitation this very day. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, NDIMWUM Emmanuel. I can see you're boiling. We shall get into the crux of the matter. By you, I have KOHTEM SAMBIT. KOHTEM SAMBIT is the Executive Director of Build Ensemble CEO, common civil society organization, and is equally a junior parliamentarian.
Yeah,
you're welcome, right, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chia, for inviting me again on your panel. Remember the last time we were in Yaoundé?
Yes.
And it's really, really important for me to be on your panel at this time where we're looking at very pertinent issue, like Ndiwa actually said, teachers. These are the pillars of the nation. You can't be anything without a teacher. Sure. And I think that each and every one of us here can easily pick out a teacher, if not one, all the teachers that they have known before. And especially at the time where Build Ensemble as a civil society organization is also working on recognizing the hard work of teachers and the plight of teachers in Cameroon with the National Teachers Award that we are putting forth.
If I may just ask, Build Ensemble, why the mixture of French and English?
Thank you very much. It's true, so many people always ask such questions. Build Ensemble, we didn't really take any particularity putting that, but looking at the context of our country, we think that There's no harm. There is no harm,
Yes.
but it's more. There's no harm in blending them two. But what is most important is the meaning behind it. Let's build together. We can only construct a nation together. So that is it. Thank you so much, and good afternoon to all the panelists with us here and your televiewers.
Thank you so much. You now know the panelists that we shall be discussing for the next 1 hour. But gentlemen, before we get into our discussions, a lot happened this week. Let's take some of the few reports that were done for us by the newsroom.
This is what remains of Kitchen Corner Competition, a Bamenda-based company specialized in the production of a variety of cooking spices located behind the popular Commercial Avenue. The company's production factory caught fire on the night of August 19, breaking 2024. Workers who spoke to the team of reporters off camera said they were alerted of the inferno at about 7 o'clock on Monday evening by benevolent neighbors who were already on a rescue mission before being joined by the Army Rescue Unit, who reportedly fought hard to prevent the fire from crossing over to the nearby school building. Being a Monday, Ghost Town Day with virtually no one in the premises, the predominantly Muslim men and women who were still at the incident site say they cannot determine the origin of the flames, not even short circuit, which is most often blamed for such happenings because this behind part of Commercial Avenue has been in darkness for some time now. At press time, workers were busy clearing the debris comprising a vast variety of spices and materials used in designing and packaging. Onlookers lamented that this is another source of employment for several youths that has been gulped down by yet another fire incident.
Brenda attests when she came with her 2 children from the first marriage at the Kilimokwe village, Mfu, Mefo, and Afamba division of the Central region. Fabrice was a loving and caring father and husband. Things started changing. He beats the children on little issues. He did it consciously because he doesn't want my children to be with me. That fateful day, he was with the children in the sitting room around the charcoal fire, and the worst happened. 3-year-old Manuela was roasted face and fingers.
I was thinking of something when the child fell. When the brother started crying, that I recovered.
The other side says it is due to the corn and peanut pudding known as a kumba that was on fire. Rushing the baby to hospital, and after a while, when the baby she is carrying also fell sick, the lover threatened she return burnt child to the father. If I don't go leave child, I myself will die. She collaborated, abandoned child in front of the father's door.
She assisted in packing the child and leaving him in front of his room.
The father, Arnaud, then reported matter at the Mfu Territorial Gendarme Brigade. That was last February 16, accusing wife and stepfather of consciously roasting a 3-year-old child.
Aggravated neglect of an incapable person, serious wound and murder attempt.
While the lover disappeared, she was arrested and she acknowledged her fault. I passed here in front of the territorial gendarme and went and left child at the father's place. I accept. After 6 months of investigation, the gendarmes finally succeeded to arrest the partner. Both had to face the law.
It's another battle of the documents in Cameroonian football. The latest exchange comes from FECAFOOT, the country's football federation, which has issued a firm directive to ONYES, the organization responsible for managing sports infrastructure. The letter emphasizes the necessity of holding the upcoming match against Namibia at Japoma Stadium. The rationale from FECAFOOT is clear. Changing the venue at this stage could have significant financial repercussions for both sponsor and the Confederation of African Football. This letter from FECAFOOT is a direct response to a communication received on August 19, in which ONYES declared the Japoma Stadium unavailable. According to ONYES, heavy rainfall in Douala severely damaged the pitch. However, despite these claims, the Japoma Stadium hosted a CAF competition match this past weekend between Victoria United of Limbe and the Ghanaian club FC Smart. Additionally, on August 7, ONYES had confirmed the availability of both Chapoma Stadium and the reunification stadium of Bipanda for training session. This latest development has led some observers to suspect the involvement of the Ministry of Sport, which has been locked in a public feud with Fecafoot since the appointment of the new national team coach. It's worth noting that upon his arrival, the coach expressed a preference for playing all matches in Yaoundé. Conversely, Fecafoot's insistence on Chapoma Stadium seemingly against the coach's wishes is seen by some as an effort by the federation to assert its control over the national team, a control that appears to have been undermined during Cameroon's last match against Cape Verde. Adding to the tension, the captain of Indomitable Lions, Vincent Aboubakar, has received a letter from Fecafoot reminding the players of their duty to adhere strictly to the federation's guidelines. The letter underlines that their stay and training will take place in Douala, reinforcing Fecafoot's authority as the sole link between the players and their club. With the next national team gathering on the horizon, this seemingly conflict between Fecafoot and other key stakeholders promises to escalate further, potentially overshadowing the upcoming match.
Parents are often caught in a whirlpool of clandestine schools as they are forced at the middle of the school year to squat for a new school for their children upon the shutdown of clandestine schools that violate government ban not to operate. We don't know how it happens. You enroll your child in the school, and as the school year unfolds, you hear there are no teachers. Different classes and pupils are mixed, so it disturbs us.
Ça nous dérange vraiment. On verse les parents sautent.
There are many clandestine schools here at Bois de Singe. Students resume schools and after 2 months they are closed. The money spent, parents suffer in this situation.
Des pareilles situations.
In the wake of this growing phenomenon, some parents have derived coping strategies, those that worked for Akiva 20 years back. The decision that parents need to take is to be informed on a school before taking their children there. Before enrolling your child, no matter the institutions, be sure that it is good, and secondly, that teachings there are of standard. I first make inquiries to understand if the school is good or not. I also look at the structure of the school. Sometimes the school does not have a playground, no canteen, no toilet. We pay a visit to the school after the adverts they make. On July 2024, the Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Nalova Lyonga, shut down some 171 clandestine secondary schools nationwide, with 67 of them in the littoral region. While the Ministry of Basic Education, Laurent Serge Todingouar, also passed a decision to shut down some 722 clandestine establishments of basic private education across the country. Proprietor, around some of these clandestine schools in Douala, revealed that enrollment is ongoing ahead of the 2024-2025 school year, despite the measures taken. They expressed hope to our reporters that more parents will solicit them as schools reopen fully.
You are welcome back. Thanks for the newsroom that we were able to have such reports and to indicate that as to what concerns Fecafoot and MINSEP. Yesterday, Minister Narcisse Molekombi held a preparatory meeting with the stakeholders and declared that the match between Cameroon and Namibia will be played in Yaoundé, Amadou Ahidjo Stadium. And in the same meeting, Fecafoot officials represented by Professor Nkumvondo declared that since Douala is being looked upon as a town with heavy rains, by September there will equally be heavy rains in Yaoundé, and consequently Fecafoot has decided that the match will be played in Garwa, where there are no rains. So, gentlemen, I would not want us to get into the Fecafoot MINSEP tussle. I'll begin with you, NDIMWUM Emmanuel. You just watched the last report there talking about the choices of schools by parents. Now, let's dive into our topic of today. What would you say are the major challenges of teachers working in the private sector in Cameroon?
To begin with, I want to say that a private sector teacher in Cameroon has a lot of difficulties, and these difficulties could be accountable by 3 underlying factors.
Okay.
This time, I will have to zoom into 2 when I will pick out the microphone the last time,
sure,
because I would like to pick it only twice today so that I actually explain what I want to say.
I'm sorry, you will speak more.
You know, the first problem in the private sector in Cameroon has been the teacher himself. I know the teachers are watching and they will be very angry to get this statement. Let me tell you, low quality demands low pay.
So,
low self-esteem demands low pay. Little knowledge of who a worker's demand is demands little respect from their bosses. In Cameroon, the teaching sector is the only sector where once you call up somebody, they already know the price, the salary that the teacher is supposed to earn. Whereas that is not supposed to be the case. Here we are talking about workers who do not know their rights. It will shock you that truck pushers in Cameroon know their rights more than the teachers.
More than some teachers?
No, more than 90% of the teachers.
Okay, it still boils down to the
it's
fact
true that
teachers.
you wrote that I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher, and at the same time, I am an administrator.
Of course.
And because teachers have refused to add value to what can help them to be valued in the eyes of their bosses, they have been taken as scrap papers. And that is exactly what obtains in the field. Why do I say so? You can imagine teaching as we grew up. I salute my class 1 teacher in those days, Mr. Ndicha Paul, who taught me how to read and write.
Yes.
Those are people who taught as an art of vocation, not because they needed that job to survive. But today, as we have, this field has been invaded by quacks, by charlatans, who are not actually teachers because there is a need to survive. And because there is a need to survive, they are, ready to accept anything as a price in the name of a salary. I want to tell you that teachers still accept 45,000 francs as a salary in Douala. And such a teacher, I can tell you without hesitation that he knows that I am valueless. Because a teacher that values himself will know that 80,000 is not a salary to start with. Some of us went through thick and thin when we entered Douala in 2013. We decided to add value to ourselves by going back to the university. And at one point, we even came up, I run an African organization. And that is why I can stand and tell any proprietor in the open and in the dark that you can't put me at a tight corner because I have value, I know value, and my value is my input into any institution I have passed in. When you fail as a teacher to evaluate yourself or to add value to yourself, you become a toy in the hands of your boss. And that is why when sometimes I'll be coming back to the role of the proprietors who have become very conscienceless and who have become, teachers have become predators in their hands. I will be coming back to that. But before I face out of this first intervention, I want to encourage teachers. You cannot call yourself a teacher whom you are supposed to be light to the society, yet you don't know your right. You cannot call yourself a teacher and you are not informed about what you should do about how the labor code is concerned. Before I tell the microphone, I just quickly tell you that my organization, before the end of this year, had to take up 4 cases of teachers who were abusively sacked by the proprietors. And those teachers, I can confidently tell you, and I don't want to make publicity, they have been paid. I will make sure, because the proprietors are up there. Teachers with their poor knowledge have placed the proprietors to that are up there, and us those of us who have already made it, and we are telling the proprietors, no, you are down there because we give you that money. We make your structure to operate. We successful. A girl with a master's was sacked abruptly, I said, simply because she asked for augmentation of her salary. And the proprietor calculated it was about May. She was sacked. When the news got to us, we did what we did. And they have been paid. 4 of the cases, 3 have been paid, 1 is pending, and I can guarantee you the proprietor will pay.
Thank you so much.
We don't do with
Mr. Mfonwe, you listen to NJIMWUM Emmanuel. As a school administrator, do you abide with the picture he's trying to paint?
Well, excuse me. I think what I will say is, I think the private education sector, when you look at the relationship between teachers and proprietors, it's some sort of a jungle where it's the law of the survival of the fittest reigns. We have situations where proprietors seem to be afraid of teachers. I say so because to many of them, it's an investment. They are out to make money. So when teachers start talking about salary increment, their problem is not what is getting into the teacher's pocket, but what is leaving, what they think is their own pocket. Because what is certain is whatever money they make comes from schools, and children go to school because they know they will meet teachers.
Sure.
Now the problem of salaries, it's a very, very old problem. I would say so. Teachers receiving, just as Mr. Dium said, 45,000. Some even go as right down to 35,000 francs. Now imagine somebody receiving even 50,000 francs in a town like Douala. Which kind of house will you live in? That's
where a single room is above 25,000.
Exactly. Now I think if I have to be asked who is responsible, who is to blame, I personally don't see it as the problem of the proprietor or the teacher. But what I would say is every state is supposed to regularize human activities. The state is supposed to come in and say exactly what is to be done, not only saying it, but ensuring that all the rules and regulations are implemented.
When the state sets aside minimum wage, how many of these proprietors even respect that?
The question is, even what we call the minimum rate,
cannot take you
41,000 francs, what do you do with 41,000 francs in a town like Douala? That's the question. What's the cost of just a room? And even after living in a room, send your wife to the market with just 5,000 francs, and you'll be shocked with what she'll come back home with. So finally, you realize that to a certain extent, we cannot call it a salary.
Mr. NJIMELE, when you listen to them, as a proprietor, and being a proprietor, somebody I know has been in the education sector for a very long time. How do you stay informed of these challenges as a proprietor?
Now, the first thing I have to point out is this. Who opens a school? That is a question. Who opens a school? He has mentioned something about the conscience of a proprietor. It's true. In any profession, you have people who have no conscience. But I think somebody like me, who started as a teacher, I know the challenges. I know the situation of the salary. I know the situation of the working conditions. They are not good. And now, if you know about that, and you set up a business, I think the first thing you have to do is to think of your past. What you went through. Are you going to sit again and see people go through the same situation? I think if you have a good conscience, you have to change. You have to change the environment. You have to change things so as to make life better for the people who are suffering like you did. Now, in my own case, I have been looking at the situation of teachers. It's lamentable, I must admit. But everything starts from the top. The government itself. Where is the priority? Certain sectors are commended at the detriment of others. A lot of sectors get attention. We all know those sectors. But the teaching core, okay,
which is the base.
Yes, it's the base, and it's very important because we even say teachers are models.
Of course.
The teaching profession is called a noble profession. So this was a profession, this is a profession that was supposed to be given priority. But unfortunately, right at the top, it is not the case. And so it trickles down. That's what is happening. It trickles down, and so many proprietors think, okay, if the state itself is not considering education, or the educators and the educationists are serious people, so why not us? Here is where the idea of conscience comes in.
Yeah.
Please, with the increase in prices, with the increase in the prices of accommodation, we all know a studio apartment, a good one, will cost about 35,000 francs to 40,000 francs in Douala. So if you pay somebody 45, how will the person survive?
Means that you are indirectly
with the prices of foodstuffs.
With some other person.
Yes, with the price of foodstuffs and so on and so forth. The complaints are legitimate. But then I think everybody should try to make sure we are each other's helper. You don't exploit people. As he is saying, yes, it's true. A lot of people are exploiting. But sometimes you should look at the school in which you teach. Some of the schools are barely struggling to survive. A school that has 1,000 students or pupils and the school fees is high, let's say 300,000 francs, is not the same as a school that is grappling with 300 children or less than 300 with a school fee of 80,000 or 50,000 francs.
But is it not said that when you start a school, you should be able to set aside some money to pay teachers for some time before the school start yielding fruits?
In principle. But who gives you the money, capital to keep aside in a country as difficult as ours? It's difficult. Because in principle, yes, you keep some money aside to do that.
Yeah.
But who has succeeded in doing that? I've seen nobody at all.
That is now principle versus reality. Yes, your general view on the situation.
Sincerely, listening to the former panelists, honestly, the situation is that which it's true, people cry around it, but I always want to make this distinction. You know, when we talk about private school teachers, we should be able to make a distinction about trained and untrained teachers. You know, today, most of the schools that are flocking with young people after advanced level, you know, I want to teach, I want to make some quick money and do this and that. We should be able to make that distinction between these trained teachers and untrained teachers, because when you talk about private school teachers, there are even teachers that were being trained by government institutions who are known as government school teachers who teach in private schools, and I think their pay is not.
Those ones are the ones cheating the government.
They are
the ones cheating the government because they are supposed to be working in government schools and being paid there, but they live there and then go and collect their salaries at the end of the month, but come back here to.
Well, to me, that is not even my point of concern, because I don't think there's any law in Cameroon that prohibits a teacher from teaching in government school and teaching in private school.
There's no law.
They can have an extra and things like that. I remember most of these teachers in the government schools are well-trained teachers that we all know about it. And so, if they have been given some of these opportunities to take advantage in the private schools, why not? But my main point of concern is about, that's why I joined Mr. NDIMWUM to say, it's about investing in yourself. You know, as most people don't understand that for you, what you put in is what comes out. You cannot be an advanced level holder. It's true there are good advanced level holders out there who are doing well, but you cannot be an advanced level holder without an additional training, and you begin with a salary of 40,000-50,000 francs, which we don't really encourage, and you still remain on the same spot for the next 10 years, and you want to get 150,000
Many
francs.
start with many start with that as a base, as a gateway, maybe to get resources and go to school. At the end of the day, you don't even have a take-home package, talk less of maybe going to the university with the same money you're working.
Like we said, Mr. Chia, look, nobody will want to refuse the economic environment in which we find ourselves in Cameroon. We are all struggling to make it change, but you have to invest in yourself. Let's accept that. You not want a proprietor. If I'm a proprietor and to employ you in my school, and I know very well your limitations as per research. Remember, we are in a very fast-growing world. And today you have a teacher who may not even understand what is an innovative way of teaching. Today we are more talking about artificial intelligence and all, and there's a teacher who has no idea about it, and you want me to pay him that type of money. So it is true that it is a very worrying situation, but teachers also have to look into this of capacity building, of uplifting their know-how, their skills to be able to earn what. It's true that there are some out there who have actually done that, but it is not the case. That's why we're looking at the plight, the untold plight of private school teachers, where if you want to go into the intricacies, you look at things like low salary. I will explain, I've given advanced some points as per the low salary. You look at the lack of benefits, which they don't also have benefits like in private, like in government schools. However, we may want to recommend that the government should look at policies that goes a long way to be able to enforce, because I think there are some policies already in place, but those that goes the enforcement mechanisms that will push these private schools to be able to respect those minimum standards for teachers. Also, the policies such as capacity building. Government and private schools can go into that partnership where they can also build the capacity of these young people. Like we make it mention of the fact that the pay may be very small to enable somebody to further studies. So, but this type of capacity building can come a long way to be able to help them to grow up in their career. So that's what we're talking about, professional development. But there is one thing I want to add, Mr. Chia, which is very important for the teachers and for their development, is motivation, recognition and motivation. And I think that despite the environment in which they find themselves, if these teachers are recognized and motivated, I think that they are going to do enough, and some people will also be very happy to go further with training. That is why you see the Build and Sam has come up with very powerfully to recognize these teachers at this time, because we really need them.
Yes, I think we are going to dive into that, but let me just remind our viewers that wherever you are watching, if you want to contribute to our talking points, use the number on your screen, WhatsApp or SMS. Please do not call, and make your messages short and straight to the point for us to be able to take I saw you eating to react to what KOHTEM was saying.
No, it's not actually what you know, the untold struggles of teachers in the private sector in Cameroon cannot be discussed in one edition as such. It's because the struggles are too many. It's too heavy. But as we are trying to say what we can say today, when the proprietor was talking a while ago, I took note of principle versus reality. Of course, he's right. We're in a country where a lot of things end at the level of papers and nothing is done on the field. And that is why proprietors have taken advantage of such loopholes to exploit and to finish with young Cameroonians. I'm telling you, to be very sincere, if you see the treatment that some of these proprietors give to the teachers, you will have to think, you are tempted to think that the devil incarnate in the form of human being. Just take a situation of like the one I ran into the school last week, where the proprietor started explaining to me that it's because he had an accident. You have female teachers. We all know that those who procreate children before schools can have
the population
are the women. How do you explain the fact that a woman that has been teaching your school for a very long time gets pregnant, she's married, you have not paid her since May, you start telling her that no, when you give birth, I will double your salary and I give it. And at one point, the lady, I have the pictures. I always speak with proofs. I got to the hospital, the lady was crying there, no way to leave the hospital. I needed the number of the proprietor. And just to realize that for 3 months, this lady worked till the last day of June. Yet her 3 months salary is pending. What explains such barbarism? And all of this now takes me to the third factor, which is the state. I have often said, see, we live in a state where our government does copies and paste. Can you not copy a good example from another nation and paste in your nation to see how it can work? Let's look at the situation of Ghana. It is high time the government of Cameroon copies what obtains in Ghana. And I think it will work. When we talk about minimum wage rates in the private sector, especially in the domain of education, in Ghana, a proprietor does not negotiate salary. I'm telling you, the state has fixed it in a way that the proprietor knows if the state has said the minimum wage rate of a teacher in a primary, secondary, college is 90,000. It is not the place of the proprietor to negotiate it.
For 50 or 45,000.
You just have the rule to recruit under the watchful regulation of the state. Once you recruit, the state knows that the salary is supposed to pass through the state accounts, through the state treasury for those salaries. And by so doing, the proprietor cannot single-handedly sack you or suspend your salary, the state machinery has an eye. But in a state like ours, where the government has surrendered the citizens, it has unscrupulous proprietor. You see what we are saying today. How do you imagine that? You recruit. When you discover that maybe you recruited this person, his input warrants that you should add salary. You choose not to bargain with the individual because you think at the level of the court in Bonanjo, you will hire a lawyer to pay the lawyer and pay the courts. Unfortunately, some of us developed thick skin long time ago that it doesn't work with us again. And I'm saying that all of this comes back to the fact that teachers who have failed to add value to themselves remain fearful, because when you know that you don't have value, you can't look up at your boss in the face. I speak because I have the value. Others should add value. And the rule of law, they will tell you that, sir, I am afraid if I talk to my proprietor, I will fire the next day. I can assure you, I can guarantee you, they have the money, you have the knowledge, you have the value, and with the knowledge and the value, you can take them to any place.
Thank you so much.
I want to react to what he said. Yes, I want to react to what he said about
maybe after your reaction, you just queue up and tell us what particularly, how do you prioritize the welfare of teachers and their satisfaction in your own school?
Okay.
Maybe people will learn from there.
Okay, let me first of all react to what he said about the salary, what obtains in Ghana. You see, regulation should happen in a country, but we tend to be respecting the capitalist system, where you ask your employer to bargain with the employee, that's the government. And I know it is quite often done at the detriment of the employee, because the employee doesn't have the voice, he doesn't have the strength to meet somebody who has finances and bargain with him and successfully. That's where the problem is. Now, second thing, if we have to consider the conscience of the employer, as I said, how many people are conscionable? A very few will be conscionable. Very few will be doing the rightful thing. That is the second thing. The third thing is this. The government, as he said, has to do some form of collaboration. Yes. The government of Cameroon gives out what we call subvention to schools. But the subvention policy in Cameroon is a mystery, because the criteria is known only to those who handle it. So, for example, my school has been existing for 8 years. I've never had subvention, and I don't know what criteria they use to give subvention to some schools. And here, it is not a question of a big school or a small school. By the way, I think small schools that are struggling to survive, they should be the ones to get subvention instead of the bigger ones that have the finances. Another point again about asking schools to pay a particular or a fixed rate as salary. Another problem is this. You see, we live in a capitalist country where school fees varies. School fees varies as you move from one school to the other. Some schools receive 3 million francs as school fees. Some receive 50,000 francs as school fees. So how do you handle that kind of situation when you want to stabilize the salary situation? Schools are not of the same standard. So you see, capitalism comes in. That is why you have, for example, even in Abuja, schools with 7 million francs school fees. And then there, a teacher can comfortably get 500,000 francs salary. But in a school, that the school fees, for example, in Douala, in the suburbs, the school fee is 50,000 francs. Do you expect the proprietor to pay a fixed amount that the state has asked the proprietor to pay? He will not succeed.
A lot of people have been reacting. Let's just take this one before we continue, Mr. Fon. Hello, good morning, sir, and thanks to you and the panelists. The topic you are discussing about is very serious matter. I have been in a school in Yaoundé where I have been asked to teach for 800 and 900 francs per hour, though I have a first degree and actually I'm doing a master's degree. What shocked me was the fact that they said, if you don't want, you leave. Some other persons will be running to come and take your position. So this matter is real, and sorrowfully I can say, big up to you, is Junior from Yaoundé. Ms. Amfon, as an administrator, you serve as a bridge between the teachers and the proprietors. So how often do you play your role of advocacy, maybe to see that these challenges are being handled by the bosses?
Well, I think before I get to what I do personally, I think that if we have to kind of write down what private school teachers are going through, I think we can come up with a book. Because somebody just spoke about a pregnant lady who was refused
fired
her own salary. But I know cases of schools where being pregnant is a crime. The moment you become pregnant, you are sacked. So you imagine you employ young ladies, you yourself, you have your own children, but you are denying them the right to have theirs. They sack and nothing happens to them. Apart from that, I think there is also one.
I hope the government should be taking care of some of these. I don't want to say excesses, because you don't sack somebody for being pregnant.
That exactly is why I say the government should take its responsibility. We can keep on blaming proprietors. Remember at the beginning I said it has become some sort of a jungle where it is the fittest that survive. Now what can teachers do for themselves? And it gets even worse with a situation where even teachers will plan the sacking of other teachers. It goes on like that. I have had situations where a proprietor complains when he founded his school. At first thought the base salary was supposed to be 120. It was the head teacher who refused and said it was too much for a teacher.
That's very true.
It was too much for a teacher. And it's a teacher who is saying, it's often said that the problem of a woman is a woman. I think in this case we have many problems that teachers face coming from teachers themselves. Now, when we talk also about the teachers being trained, I would say that on my part, about 9 out of 10 applications that I receive are trained teachers. So you hardly find untrained teachers today going in for teaching. We have just a handful of them. And I also have to say this, the government, even if the government has to come in, there is a lot of work that should be done. Because if we take the situation of, just as the proprietor was saying, schools with 300 children, you have areas where a school hardly have even 100 children. Now what is the cost? After every 200 meters there is a school. After every 200 meters there is a school. Now each school runs from class 1 to class 6. And that is already 6 teachers. Now you get into a classroom, a teacher is handling 8, 9, 10 children. Each child pays 70,000. Where does the salary come from? So that also becomes a problem. So I think before I stop, I will say the first thing is for the government to regulate the creation of schools. Most of these schools, many of them have their authorization. Now added to that, you have hundreds. I think this year I came across a list of 777 private schools which are operating without any authorization.
Okay, let's pick one other message again. Good afternoon, sir. I am a primary school teacher. I am being paid 40,000 francs for 2 classes. Is that okay? That's the question the person is asking me. That is, and the person says, my rents, feeding bills are all in this salary. KOHTEM, a teacher is supposed to be a model for the learners he is teaching. With all this happening, with all these challenges, hurdles, is the teacher still keeping up that image? Is the teacher still being able to keep up that image? Because if the learners you are teaching do not respect you, they will not listen to you.
Of course, it's really a very worrying situation. Like all of us have been really lamenting and regretting on it. But like we said before, as a teacher, you are the light of the nation. You're the one who decides what the nation becomes tomorrow. So you need to be the first example. You need to set the example by adding value to yourself. You need to know what you're doing and where you find yourself. Unfortunately, like the one you just read, who actually is crying foul of the fact that 2 classes, and like I said before, I evoked the economic situation of Cameroon, which leaves some people with little or no option but to go with that. But we need to really strengthen this. However, the pressure too that comes from the administration and other entities or other organs that are involved in this also play a role in this. And this effect goes back to the students, because like we say, garbage in, garbage out. If a teacher doesn't feel satisfied in class, if the teacher is not well compensated, the effect goes back on the students because the output will not be as effective as if that teacher was more comfortable in that situation. That is why we really advocate for the fact that in order for these to, some of these problems to be regulated, the other panelists have talked about the government putting in some mechanism to address this situation, but I'll go a long way to even propose to the various ministries that are concerned, like the Minister of Basic Education and Minister of Secondary Education, that if there is a possibility of putting a, I don't know if it's a mobile vanguard or a mobile service where it will go a long way to control it. The ministries have already begun. We saw 700 and something schools in the Basic school. Let's just be positive. Let's just be positive for the time being. We must start from somewhere.
Okay,
so if the government can put in this vanguard and this organ that will be able to check, and not only to check but also to receive complaints such as this. But before you complain, you must be in accordance with the law, because most people also complain. If you go to look at it in the 3 cases, you realize that they also have 1 or 2 things to do. But the last thing, like I said before, recognition. Parents, teachers, administrators recognize what these teachers are doing. Give them that value, because if you don't give them that value, it will not really boost them. But if you give them that value and that recognition, and that is what Build and Sam is doing today, trying to give that recognition to teachers by organizing this award for them. We've not seen it in Cameroon before. It's the first ever National Teachers Award.
If I may ask, maybe what are the basic considerations for the awards you guys are trying to give out?
First, you need to be a teacher with at least, you need to be a teacher with at least 4 years of experience in the teaching field, recognized experience. That's why we,
public or private?
For the first edition, we're going with the public institutions, the public secondary schools, the secondary and high schools for the first edition. However, remember there are teachers in the private schools who are registered with the public, who are teaching in the public, so it doesn't exclude that. So you need to first, then you need to be an innovative teacher. When we talk about innovative, of course, we know there are new mechanisms and techniques where teachers used to give out lectures, and for that to happen. And so, for these teachers, you need to also be a teacher within the national territory. We don't leave any teacher aside. Right in the suburbs, we will go there to answer to this question. So it's a national-wide.
Okay, I'll make sure I'll be there myself on that day to see that you respect what you will. Before I come to you, there is this phenomenon of paying teachers for 9 months.
Yes.
Not only are some paid very low, even the ninth month salary is never forthcoming in some schools.
Yes.
Do proprietors really consider the fate of teachers during holidays?
That's a very good question. I myself, I was a victim of that when I was teaching, because I had to spend 3 months without now knowing what to eat, how to pay my rents, and so on and so forth. So today I think about the situation when I see my teachers. I don't pay my teachers 9 months, I pay them 10.5 months. And if I happen to have
enough money,
if I happen to increase the fees of my school, if the fees of my school goes up to 150,000 francs, all my teachers will be on 12 months. I mean, just 150,000 francs. But I will tell you, there are schools in this town with the fees ranging between 300 to 500,000 francs, and they are still paying their teachers 9 months. That is a scandal, in my opinion. So they also mentioned something here about teacher being dismissed because she got pregnant. No, that kind of thing cannot happen in my place, because when you are pregnant in my place, we sit down and then we think of what to do, how you can be replaced. You go and give birth, then we give you a few weeks to recover. Now, during that period, we are monitoring your health. If your health is not good, we add more weeks until you become solid. Then you come back and teach. When you are healthy, you come back and teach. We believe in effective teacher. That is, we want our teachers to be effective. An effective teacher is a teacher that, in fact, is okay, well trained, he is morally upright, and is working in a conducive environment, in a clean environment, and first of all, psychologically prepared to teach. So when we give all those aspects, if those aspects are okay, a teacher can teach comfortably without any problem. Now, coming to what Mr. Fon said about the proliferation of schools, I think the government policy about the creation of schools should be revised. you don't create schools like bars. That is the problem today.
I think there's even
if proprietors are
unable, which says there is a
proximity,
a particular distance. A school is supposed to be away from a bar, but we see schools sharing boundaries.
That is not respected. I think the inspectors, the stakeholders in education, each time they sit down, they should think of that. When you come into a quarter, for example, they are talking of UP with so many schools. You need to tell us this is a zone. Check at the educational needs of that zone. How many schools do we need in that zone? And when you reach that number, somebody is applying to create or operate a school there. Tell him, no, this zone is saturated. Go to a different zone. If you do that, salaries will be paid and paid well. And then there will be effective teaching. And knowledge will be transmitted without any problem. That is my idea.
Thank you. Let's take some few messages. One untold situation is that money that some proprietors cut in your salary, saying it is school association, it is obliged to be a member of school association. So he's just struggling to say, irrespective of the little salaries.
It's very true.
Yes, there are still some conditions where they say you must belong to a school association and all that. Yes, Emmanuel, we are almost moving out of this situation. We have barely, I think we have barely 8 minutes. We should be looking at the solutions now.
No, like I've always said, everything begins with a will. If there is a will, certainly there's going to be a way. That will should not be an individual's will. It should be a collective will. That is why I, as one of the active members of the Cameroon Civil Society, especially in the domain of Association of Civil Society for Sustainable Development in Cameroon, have been calling the few state actors I have met. I have been telling them point blank, if we all love Cameroon, we need to fix, we need to sweep the house where education is hosted. And to sweep it, the ministers of basic, secondary, higher education need to be called to order. We are their employers. They are not our employers. The ministers remain our employees. As the citizens of this nation, we employ them because we pay them. They need to listen to us. They need to work as the citizens are asking them for the benefit and the betterment of this country. If that is not done, you will realize that some few unscrupulous individuals will take hostage of the talents of young Cameroonians and begin to use them. You see, somebody has a school today, despite, in as much as I agree, because some week ago I visited Lobeso and I was shocked that you live from here, there's a school, they proliferate. I am not for that. I agree totally with that. But then, if we were to leave it into the consciences of the proprietors, then we are finished. They don't have consciences. And I'm not very sure that they have consciences. I said 99% they don't have consciences. You see somebody open a school.
That's being radical.
Tomorrow he has campus B. After tomorrow he has campus C. And then he's sacking those
and the teachers
who started. And then
the campus
they know as he's increasing the campus, he's decreasing the salary of the teacher. Worse still, those people who laid the foundation for the creation of the first school as such, they become lay about in the quarter. But then I am calling on the Cameroonian teacher that as you are adding more value to yourself, don't be afraid. When we went to one school, a teacher said the proprietor called them the kafar, and we told the proprietor that you will turn the kafar before the end of the 2 months. He paid. When he found himself, he least expected, because he looked at our sizes, he never knew that when you see people dancing on the street, the drummers are certainly somewhere. So we are saying that time is coming, not too long from now. A private teacher who has added value to himself is up to date, will not be in that, will not be in that difficult situation again. But before we go, I am taking this opportunity to appreciate all teachers. Despite the situation, don't give up. Be encouraged, be a teacher, be a motivator. And some of the questions, a teacher need to dress well, a teacher need to eat well.
Sure.
A teacher that doesn't fit well, a hungry teacher doesn't give out good information in the classroom. So we are saying that the proprietor, we are also appealing to your consciences to look up to these teachers. If you make a teacher great, perhaps you are making your institution great. And you are making yourself a great man. And you certainly go, your name will certainly be stenciled into the annals of Cameroon academic history. And I don't know why these people do not want to enter to the good books of Cameroon academic history. But before you take the microphone, because it will certainly be the last time, you know, some of us talk a lot. We are inviting Canal and all well-wishers for our seminar that is coming up next Saturday on the 31st. The Association of Civil Society for Sustainable Development with our president, Dr. John Aku, and great talks shall be coming. And that's why we keep challenging that teachers should see such opportunities. Come and listen to people like Agbo Bala. Come and listen to Maxilene Ngombe and Fabrice Lenas and my brother here. Dish our knowledge. And then you equip yourself how to fit in a society. We are glad that Canada shall be there.
Thank you so much, NJIMWUM. Emmanuel, let's take this one. Good day, sir. I am enjoying your program from Yaoundé. I wish the panelists elaborate on the duration of a period for a lesson. This is because here in Yaoundé, some schools decide the duration of the period, and in most cases, it ranges from 50 to 60 minutes, which I know is not normal. Yeah, Mr. Fon, it's a serious issue, and we are going out.
Yeah.
What should be done? What should be the way forward now to be able to arrest maybe some of these difficulties of the private school teachers in Cameroon?
Yeah, I think what we have to take note is of the fact that conscience will not do anything. That cannot give us a solution. The state, I keep saying, should come in and take its responsibility, ensure that all the rules and regulations, all the laws are strictly implemented. Now, I think you said something was said, for example, as how head teachers manage their schools. The link between the
very important
proprietor and the
because
and the
he made mention of the fact that some head teachers are problematic, even him.
Exactly. I would say that in my own case, in my school, Sierra Bilingual Nigerian Primary School, the situation is really different because there is a lot of dialogue between the teachers, the administration, and the board of administrators, because the proprietor himself is no longer living. The school is managed by the children. There's a lot of dialogue. The first thing, we talked of the case of pregnant women. Where I am, when a lady puts to bed, he has 1 month and 2 weeks rest period, during which she receives his salary. And I also wish to say that their teachers receive 12 months salary. At the moment, teachers are on holidays, but as they come back at reopening, they receive their August salary. Then I also talk of school association. It is true it exists in my own school, but it is handled by teachers solely. And the one good thing is that the proprietor is also a member. And it is forbidden for any administrator to be the president of the association. It has its own bureau, which is totally independent of the administration. All we do is we just make sure everything works well. And then I'll also say something. I also say something that it is true that everybody is running into private schools because the government hardly recruits the teachers it trains. So many of them are going to private schools. But I think conscience, teachers have to be duty conscious. Yeah, duty conscious in order to avoid certain forms of abuse coming from some unconscious proprietors, if I may say it that way.
Mr. Proprietor, in 1 or 2 sentences, how do we tackle this, given that we are preparing for the new academic year? How do we change the situation?
Yes, I think the teachers who are teaching, they should look at teaching as a noble profession, as usual. The teachers should be committed and they should be ready to learn. They should continue to do their work effectively while we are waiting for government regulation. The government should be able to provide subvention. Let there be the mechanism should be clear for everybody to know. The criteria for giving out subvention should be clear for everybody to know. That is important. They should help mostly schools in difficulties.
Needy schools. Mr. KOHTEM, I'm sorry you will not have your last word. Our producer is already indicating that we don't have time. Thank you so much for being part of the program today. If you did miss out on anything, do not hesitate to watch the rebroadcast on Wednesday at 11 p.m. Until we meet again next Saturday, stay blessed.